Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Hog Talk Podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe It Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us on 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes, and alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. We're also brought to you by Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our 200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino or get on a game of blackjack or poker or even unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today. Don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. And earlier, we had the pleasure of having on Jason Curl from OSU Max, formerly of Pig Trail Nation and Hogs Plus. We kind of broke down the Oklahoma State game, his Fayetteville, Stillwater. So be sure to head over to our Facebook page and check that out, as well as all of our other podcasts and live shows, along with Hog HQ. All episodes all the time are on there. So if you miss one or you need to download it wherever you could find your favorite podcast. But we're just a few more days away from Oklahoma State. I know the buzz is still there from the game against UAPB. Taylor Green was even on the Paul Feinbaum show today. There's just a lot of confidence I see heading into this game. Much needed confidence, you should say.
You know, I've been going back and forth this week, looking, going back and rewatching some of the Arkansas film, watching it a few different times, just to, watch the offense, watch the defense, watch different parts of it rather than watching the game as a whole. I haven't had the time to go back early and watch as much as Oklahoma State as I would like. So, just looking at everything, I'm on the fence still, and a lot of that is just the recent past, which it is what it is. I'm trying just not to get too far ahead of myself with all of this, and I know when our picks come out either tonight or tomorrow, I mean, you may see an Oklahoma State, you may not. Haven't made that decision yet. But at the same time, it is what it is. If I'm one of those people that I will gladly eat crow.
Where does that put you? Your prediction of 3 wins. Say Arkansas knocks off Oklahoma State. Where does your ceiling floor go to with a win over Oklahoma State?
With a win, I think
Yes.
that we'd be looking at, in my eyes, 6 to 7 wins, because I think this game will be a turning point one way or another. Not trying to look too far ahead, but looking at Oklahoma or Texas A&M. I mean, I know Mississippi State put up 56, but just looking at the other teams, there's some games there that on our prediction show said, were kind of my swing games, could go either way that would change me off of that, and this would definitely do that.
I think, we talk about, we brought this up before the season with playing UAPB or UAB after this, win or lose. It's very beneficial because you go to Stillwater, pull off the win, pull off the upset, get that ranked win. I mean, look, how much does this program need a top 25 win? And I do it differently. I don't do like a top 15. You're the top 25 or you're the top 10, A win like this on the road against an Oklahoma State team is much needed. And you get a week to prepare for Texas A&M. You don't have to worry about coming off of this high and then going right into this game where, look, you talk about getting the monkey off your back. You talk about any other team. You put LSU, you could put Mississippi State in there. You have that Texas A&M game that's always been that hurdle for you over the past years. Being able to come down from the high or rebuild off a loss is huge, especially when that team is Texas A&M. And the way Texas A&M looked against Notre Dame, you can't look too far ahead, but you have to really know that you're not going into that thinking it's automatically winnable, and then you get caught in a trap game.
Well, it's going to be. I mean, we have Auburn between UAB and A&M, so that's going to be going into Jordan Hare is going to be a completely different environment than Jerry World, but it's one of those things that which I know they're doing. Get into Oklahoma State, go into Stillwater, prove what your team and your coaches know and feel, and what a lot of the fan base currently feels. Play your game. I mean, looking at the stats and some of the video that I have watched of Oklahoma State, I mean, it's one of those things. I think they had either 6 or 14 more yards than South Dakota State. And, the quarterback was only touched twice, wasn't sacked. So, but looking at Ollie Gordon, 24 to 26 rushes or whatever it was for 126, I think it was like a 3.8 average. So meet him at the line of scrimmage, disrupt the backfield. Those are things that you're going to have to do. Obviously, and it's the same thing with Taylon Green, not really being touched, hoping your offensive line can hold up. Neither one have really been tested in the true quarterback pressure of a good team.
Yeah. And, the fact that Arkansas knowing that they are taking account for the opponent that Oklahoma State played. Everybody respects South Dakota State. But you made a good point. Even if it is South Dakota State, we've said this. There should be a despairing difference between the line of scrimmage on your play when it comes to a team like Oklahoma State and a team like South Dakota State. Knowing that he had to earn, he didn't just do 8-10 carries for 130. And he had to carry this thing 24 times for 134 yards. That is where I have a little bit of that confidence, knowing that our defense is hungry. They're going to have that chip on their shoulder every week. So coming into the game, and you talk about that Auburn game, you win this game, you got UAB, you have a point of you're getting yourself in a position where you're losing these games early and you're falling 2-2, 2-3, where you're putting yourself in a hole. You come into the Auburn game undefeated, you're sitting pretty. Mm-hmm. And if you don't pull off, that does not put extra pressure on you to carry it on. Yes, that Texas A&M game is huge. I always call that a swing game for the season. I tried to, justify last season and saying when you're playing LSU before Texas A&M, it might give some leverage, but we've seen how everything went down. The biggest confidence booster coming into this season, like when you really look at how many games they were close. I know it's moral victories and I know it's a what ifs, but you really have to put that in the back of your mind of the team they had last year. They were still so close from winning 2 or 3 more of those games. And then you could be looking at a 6-6 season opposed to a 4-8. And that's the importance of just 2 games on your schedule. If you could pull off, you're either talking about another disappointing season or you're talking about making a bowl game.
Mm-hmm. And, I'm always been on, which I know a lot of people are, especially fans in the SEC. I'm anxious to see go against a Big 12 defense. It's one of those things that they always get knocked for their defense in the conference. So I fully expect to take those shots to run them over. All the praise that we gave Jaquindon Jackson last Thursday and after. One thing that I want to see, because I know you can tell he has it in him. We've seen it, but I want to see him just run somebody over. I'm waiting for it, and I think he's waiting for it. So it's one of those things. I think he's going to get his chance this Saturday. I think he's going to get obviously more than 8 carries. He's going to get more of a workload. And one thing I talked about, my praise for Jaquindon Jackson coming in from Utah is we haven't had a running back that can pick up a block like he can. And it's one of those things that you're going to see that more than likely in this game, that your running back is going to have to pick up those blocks.
The biggest thing, and this goes a little bit on the offensive line too, the biggest difference I seen with him, he wasn't sitting there bouncing around looking for a hole to develop. Mm-hmm. He got the ball and he found the hole. And I don't care what kind of upfront defense you find. That's the difference between gaining 3 yards or your stuff behind the line. His ability to see the hole and hit it is big. And for him to do that, especially when you are relying on your balanced offense, because look, if they stop your run, and look, Oklahoma State's line is going to be hard to stuff because we're talking about these lack of touches that South Dakota State had on the pressure, but that says a lot about their offensive line. And Jason Carroll talked about that earlier today. But the biggest thing is, too, you have Washington, you have potentially, I don't know if it's been made official yet on Armstrong or not, his status. Last we heard probable or questionable, but his presence, and that is what I've preached for the past couple of years in this passing game, not just having a guy like Burks, you only got one guy to throw to. If you got your running back to throw to, you have tight ends to throw to, and you have a couple of guys like Tesla and Broden and Armstrong to throw to, it's going to be very hard for this Oklahoma State defense to pick up where to go to with the ball and who to key in on.
Mm-hmm. And seeing, what we saw against UAPB and what we know of Bobby Petrino, a screen, a screen to the running back is for Petrino is completely different from a screen, that Kendall Briles or Dan Enos called. And I think we saw a little bit of that. And we've got running backs that can catch and run. And it's one of those things that with the offensive line, making sure that they're out ahead and blocking, and your wide receivers have to pick up blocks too. And granted, it's UAPB, but these are things that I think we saw little glimpses of, and we're going to see more of as the season progresses. And you hope that they just come in. I feel like they come in hungry, they come in ready. And it's not so much proving people wrong anymore. It's proving you guys right as a team and as coaches.
Yes. And the fact of, again, look at Bobby Petrino. He's not going to play conservative. He's going to come out. He's going to be ready to ball. He's going to be ready to go. We're talking about these first drives and stuff, even if they're unsuccessful, even if they have a 3 and out, he's going to try to shoot for a home run ball right off the bat. And I think that's really works in Arkansas's favor because, look, Oklahoma State knows something's coming. They don't know what's coming and where it's going. This is not one of these games where you're like, okay, they're going to play conservative. They're going to try to figure us out on defense. Bobby ain't playing that. He proved that last week of like, I don't even look at the kickers. I don't want my kickers out there. My job is to score touchdowns. If we have to settle for a field goal, we do. So that's what I think the first 2 or 3 drives is going to be interesting for me on an execution standpoint, because they're going to want to hit the home run. They're going to want a big play. Arkansas is coming in. The players want a statement win. Bobby Petrino, Sam Pittman, and staff, they want a statement win. And I think what's really good about this team is you have 2 offensive coordinators who they don't want to be outshined by one another. They don't want to say, well, the offense had a really good game, the defense lacked. The defense had a really good game, the offense is lacking. This is 2 guys that are hungry along with the head coach, and they come out with a statement win. They win this by 10, 14 points in a decisive, dominant win. I think it's going to send shockwaves through college football because everybody knows how impressive they were, but it was against UAPB. They beat Oklahoma State by 10 to 14 points. It's really going to send a statement to the rest of the SEC.
So, complete X factor in this. You've got the chess match between offensive coordinators, Travis Williams, in that defense. Just because I'm putting Travis Williams and Arkansas's defense above where Oklahoma State's at. So it's one of those things that I think that there's a lot of respect there between Petrino and Williams. And I think that this is more of I'm going to do everything so that my side of the ball helps your side of the ball. Yeah. So it's going to be getting each other off the field. It's going to be, we're going to try to do things to not put you in a hole to dig us out.
Exactly.
Which is how it should be.
Yeah. Don't keep these. You're going to be allowed some 3 and outs. That's going to happen, but don't go 3 and outs in a row and then expect your defense to see. We've seen that over and over and over again, that the defense get worn out. You got an offense that can really run and gun. And to be honest, I'm interested to see how he switched things up, because this isn't a team like Oklahoma State that has a subpar running back. You can't just disguise your blitzes and live and die on that, because you still have to respect what they have at the running back position. So I'm really going to be intrigued on how he really takes this by the horns and he switches up blitzes. He really makes the play calling at the line of scrimmage or the switches. Do they switch into a run? Do they go out of a run to because we're talking about a running back? What if they try to do a screen pass? Are you going to be able to pick that up? So that offensive defensive line is going to be the biggest, I say, X factor when it comes to the whole game is how does this defensive front play up to their offensive front?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I remember looking up all of Oklahoma State's stats and whatnot because Ollie Gordon had 3 catches for 20 yards, so he's gonna be thrown to. So but back to Coach Petrino and the offense and whatnot. So one thing that just listening to him in previous press conferences, and then seeing it against UAPB finally, one thing that he touched on in the beginning, was basically like the booth versus the sideline, and he's going to be on the sideline obviously because of the communication factor.
That's huge, yeah.
Because you can't do it if you're up in a box. You've got to be on the sideline. And he was, he even said he's like, I got used to being in the box previously, at A&M, but I think we all know from seeing this in the past, Arkansas, whether it was Arkansas, Louisville, Missouri State, whatever. Coach Petrino on the sideline is different than Coach Petrino in a press box. The message gets across a little bit clearer when he's standing 2 feet in front of you versus calling down to a phone.
You're not just screaming over headphones or talking through a phone. You can really show this kid or whoever, hey, this is why you messed up, but hey, here's how to fix it. Or hey, this is a really good pickup. Be looking at this, because you've got the guys above you that are picking things up on defense that they can relay to Bobby Petrino. And him being able to, it's that personal. Like I tell people all the time, when you're texting people, your emotions and everything gets lost in transition. If you're up just talking to them through a headphones or through a phone and they're looking at an iPad, you're not really grasping everything. So that is, in a learning year like this, especially with the new quarterback OC, new staff, you're really trying to bond. Him being down on the field is very imperative, especially in a game like this.
So this is a game that, like I said, for me, it's going to go either way. But I think that if Arkansas pulls out the victory, kind of like you were saying, I think you're looking at 10 to 14 points. And I know, I think right now, Oklahoma State's a 7.5 point favorite, but it's one of those things. Besides being an 11 a.m. game, which I can't stand, but I think this goes in Arkansas's favor. But I think if it does go in Arkansas's favor, it's going to be double digits.
Yeah, and I think Jason said something about Arkansas having like an hour to travel to the game. I don't know if that was before the game or is there no hotels in Stillwater? Like, I mean, he was talking about how small Stillwater was, but I mean, that could be a factor of, how hyped this team is. How much quality sleep do they get up on, because this is a very important game for this program. But I really want to say, he said they had like an hour drive to the stadium. So, I mean, put that in a little perspective, but I think that's where they need to know that in their game plan, pre-game plan, like, look, guys, make sure you do A, B, and C, because we got an hour drive to the stadium. We're going to do our walkthrough. You're going to have plenty of time to get hyped up and get ready. And I'm very interested to see how the start of this game goes, because I mean, I'm really, if they shut down the run game and make Oklahoma State just pass it, that's where I really have confidence of them trying to keep up with Bobby Petrino's offense. And it is a 14 point victory.
And, we saw it a few times in the UAPB game. I hope that the issues of our secondary getting beat a few times were just one-offs. I mean, obviously it's going to happen here and there, but maybe it's something that during this past week, Coach Williams, they pointed these things out on tape, like, hey, you got beat, you got bailed out, but you got beat.
Yeah. And switching subjects to how you're going to watch the game. We know the ESPN Disney saga continues, and I know there was a lot of fingers pointing at DirecTV and greed, and we even had a conversation with Courtney Mims from Pictorial Nation about that. And man, some breaking news come out today about strong arming, and we're talking about this one platform device that you're wanting to stream on, and it really makes sense of if ESPN's trying to control everything, they're trying not to lose grip. You're talking about who wants money in the college football. ESPN's trying to, if ESPN loses college football rights and if somebody else comes in, ESPN's cooked because of that is a huge part. Yes, you have NBA coverage and all that, but there's nothing like what college football, college game day, a Saturday slate of ESPN games, because you're a part of Disney, you're part of ABC. It's not just ESPN. You're losing everything. So this whole thing with ESPN, DirecTV, and I believe who was it that was it Tubi, Fubo? Who was it? Fubo. Fubo TV was the one that they injunctioned with, or what was the term you used?
Well, they had an injunction. Basically, a lot of it comes down to the streaming rights of things, and they want stuff separated out. And I guess Disney was like, no, we're not going to do that. And so there's just a big back and forth. And then so all of this, which I didn't even realize that it happened last month, because I know we've talked about Venue and this streaming platform that they've been working on. But, a judge stopped that last month dead in its tracks because of, everything coming on with the exclusive streaming rights and not allowing this. I didn't expect all of this. And, it went quiet, especially in Venue, because I know we've talked about like, oh, we hadn't really heard anything. And then all of a sudden to search it and boom, there's an injunction last month signed by a judge. Like, I ain't doing this. They'll figure out a workaround or come to some agreement. It's just overall the people that are screwed in this are the fans.
Exactly. The consumer, because one, they're going to end up paying more for what they are, or hell, it could be good for YouTube TV because everybody's flocking there. And their plans are, I believe, 70, $80 a month. So 4 screens, and I will be switching there as well. So it's one of those platforms that they're going to get a lot of attention, and always happens. But I think just with the way things are going, Disney tried to take advantage of DirecTV, and you're talking about going quiet. Well, nobody's going to say anything about it till fingers start getting pointed. Mm-hmm. Oh, you think it's us? Well, look, this is really what happened. And now they're going to cast stones because they're like, hey, this is what happened. This is what they're trying to do. And now everybody is just like, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to look at the timing of everything. And it's like, hey, we pulled the plug 15 minutes before your prime kickoff game of college football season. We're doing this as a big middle finger because we can. And, it's one of those, like, I was obviously, I've still got the post up. I'm the one blaming DirecTV, and then come to find out, it seems like it's more of Disney side. Fact is they're all greedy, which I totally get. But at the same time, you've got DirecTV who, like, I know a lot of people, they hate satellite, they hate cable, a dying breed, dying industry, whatever. And, DirecTV, it would probably hurt them a lot if they were to cut $12 to $15 off of plans to accommodate, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And final topic of first segment before we take a break, Coach Cal, I mean, look, did it twice today. Had a nice little visit from a Kentucky player, and then the announcement right before we went on the air about a potential, it's per sources, not official from the university yet, but John Rothstein said Kansas and Arkansas will play a charity exhibition like Arkansas did against Purdue last year. So I know there is a lot of hesitancy when it comes to winning that game, but Arkansas, Kansas in Fayetteville, that's going to draw a lot of fans. And if it's a charity game, that's going to be pretty much first game of the season.
Oh, I mean, I think we're going to be looking at just like we did the Purdue game. It's going to be crazy. Fans showed up for that one. Here's the thing. No matter how this game turns out, we saw what happened last season. Mm-hmm. We beat Purdue. Hell, when that regular season started, we beat Duke, and then the downfall ensued. But it's one of those things. You've got a completely new team. You've got a completely new coach. You've got a completely new philosophy. You've got new life that's back. You don't have a coach that's checked out. So completely different feel around the program. I know we talked about it with Courtney and the feel and everything around the football program. The energy that we're seeing from not only the team, but hell, people that live in Northwest Arkansas, people that are close to Coach Cal that are, putting out tweets and posts and this and that. It's just something that is refreshing.
Yeah. And look, there's going to be a lot more pressure when it comes to that because you got Big Blue Nation on your tail. They want you to lose every game. So even if it is a charity, you can't sit there and take the win last year. And then if you lose it, well, you can't use that excuse because last year you rode that until the wheels fall off of the season. So you've got to come into that game and you have to, I don't care who it is. It's that first game of the season. You have to win that one. If you win that big one and then a couple weeks later go on a little skid, but you coming in, having Kansas, that is going to be the talk of the town. That is where Big Blue Nation's going to be licking their chops, paying their rent because it's rent free in the mines. And, that's where I pause when it comes to that team because there is so much expectation on this team. But they put it on themselves by the big hire, all the NIL money, all the 4 stars, 5 stars. So I know we're months away from that, and it seems like Cal can always find a way to make the storylines, which is always it's always a good thing. So that will be coming up. I don't think it is not official yet.
It's not official yet, so we don't know any more details on it.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. After the commercial break, we're going to bring on Jonthan Tobey. But yes, I forgot all about it. We're doing a pick-em. We have our championship belt for our cross-platform pick-em contest with the Hog Talk and Hog HQ. That will go to the winner. So hopefully that will be delivered to my house. Are we running this all the way through till the Super Bowl? Is that how we're going to do this? Or
I figured we could either do that or just through the regular season. We actually didn't decide yet. I think when I figured it up in my head, we were looking at 16 to 18 weeks, or that's what I had figured in my head. But we can do it to you, me, DP, and Matt decide on if we want to do it to the regular season or do it to bowl season. Because you got to think bowl season is going to give us games and matchups that are going to make us think a little bit, because you're going to have to take in consideration opt-outs and the stakes of college football playoff. I think we should probably include the CFP in this.
Yeah. And look, if we're going to do that, we might as well just, hey, heck with it. Let's go to the Super Bowl. Go to the Super Bowl, all the college football, NFL pick'ems. But we're going to take a quick break. After the break, we'll bring on Jonthan Tobey of Baptist Health. We'll catch you after the break. Looking to enhance your home's curb appeal? Look no further than Vision Exteriors. As your trusted roofing, siding, and exterior experts, we're here to transform your property. Our skilled team ensures your job is not only functional, but also aesthetically pleasing. Along with roofing, we also offer window, gutter, and siding insulation to boost your home's appearance with our quality options. Visit us at www.visionexteriors.com or call us at 479-397-4770. Let's make your vision a reality. Discover Wellness at Baptist Health. As Arkansas's largest and most comprehensive not-for-profit healthcare organization, we're here for you every step of your journey. Whether you need heart health services, orthopedics, or simply want to live well, Baptist Health has you covered. Visit us at 1001 Towson Avenue in Fort Smith or at one of our 250 points of contact all over the great state of Arkansas. From urgent care centers, senior living, to our primary and specialty care clinics, Baptist Health, for you, for life. Are you looking for your dream home in the heart of the Ozarks? Look no further than Hillbilly Realty. Located at 401 West Commercial Street in Ozark, Arkansas, our experienced team of professionals is dedicated to help you in finding the perfect property. Whether you're buying or selling, we're here for you with a commitment to excellence, customer service, and local expertise. We make the real estate process seamless. Call Bill Brockett today and team at 479-667-4135 to start your journey with Hillbilly Realty, where every property feels like home. Welcome to Vulcan Sporting Goods, your premium pickleball supply company right here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Explore our premium pickleball equipment featuring pro indoor gear and accessories. Whether you're a seasoned athlete or just starting, Vulcan has something for you. In pickleball gear, you can discover a collision of style, athleticism, and technology with our durable products. Excellence meets innovation at Vulcan Sporting Goods. Visit our website at www.vulcansportinggoods.com to explore our collections and stay updated on the latest highlights by following Vulcan Pickleball on social media. And want to welcome you back to the Hog Talk podcast. And we head to the Mother's Lumber Hotline, bring in Dr. Jonthan Tobey from Baptist Health. I want to really appreciate you for coming on, orthopedic surgeon at Baptist Health. So thank you for taking time to jump on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So we really partnered up with the Baptist Health and brought on a lot of providers. We're talking about sports, how it relates to injuries, and having you on and the uptick, talking about the health of these kids getting stronger earlier, the tendons, I'm sure you see a lot of ACL stuff when it comes to that. And what's been the biggest thing that you've seen the uptick in injuries, especially I want to go middle school, high school, when we're talking about these athletes?
Yeah. So one thing that's changed a lot, especially the last decade or two, and back when I was in junior high and all that playing football, we typically played on a grass field, and then the turf field started coming. And there actually is, if you look at some of the data, there is a higher rate of injuries on turf fields as compared to grass fields. One article I looked at said there was a 20% increase in non-contact injuries. That's a lot of your ACL tears, things like that. And it has to do with there's just more energy in the turf. So on one part, it's better, a better playing surface. You don't have to worry about the upkeep of the turf, but there is a rate of increased tears, and that's something the NFL has looked at and studies there, and they've sponsored a lot of these of talking about should they go back to grass. I don't know if they will, because the cost of upkeep, especially when you're a small town high school and you live in, say, like Arkansas, where it can be 100 degrees for a month straight and just kill your field. So that's why a lot of it is turf, but there definitely has been a little bit of an uptick in that. I think it's more. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and also the temperature. I've seen a huge difference with the temperature from the turf. Like my stepsons, they're in junior high, and they were talking about, the surface temperature. You're having to move around because your cleats just get so hot, and then it goes to other things, hydration. But, the fact of these kids just seem to be getting bigger, stronger, faster. But where does that come in on, those important things like the ACL? Are you seeing some type of where, they're getting bigger and stronger, but their tendons and ligaments are just not developing enough to withstand these kids' bodies these days?
I don't know if it's necessarily the tendons and ligaments aren't stronger. I think they're just getting hit with the stronger force. If you're just getting hit by more force, you're more likely to get an injury. If you get hit by a small little Miata versus you get hit by an F-150, there's just going to be more damage with that. So I think that's kind of what's happening, especially when you look at junior high and high school, because some kids hit their growth spurts way earlier than others. And it's funny when you see, one kid that has a full beard and then the other kid looks like he's a 12-year-old and they're playing on the same field. And I think that's where some of those injuries come into, is just as people develop at different ages. And then going back to the temperature thing, it's hot. I'm Northside High School's team doc here in Fort Smith, and I cover their games on Fridays. And there is definitely a difference when you're on that field. And so sometimes the early season, we have to delay the start of games just because of the temperature. And there are protocols with it's called the hot bulb, where they have it on the field and it takes into wind and sunlight, humidity. And so there are certain rules that the state has that you can't kick off the game, at least in high school, under a certain temperature. So, which is good. It does prevent injuries.
I believe it was either Dr. Voris or Dr. Lee. I think it was Dr. Lee. We were talking about the fact that how much easier does that make your job, knowing that there's standards. There's standards at these schools. There's no backlash. There's no, you come out and it's this temperature or this is going on. You can really focus on doing your job and not really have the backlash or somebody trying to go into a game when that they're not physically able to go back in.
Right. Like the concussions too, they're standardized protocols with that. Cause back in the day, you'd kind of, hey, what year is it? All right, get back in there. And, the coaches going, hey, this guy can play, right? This guy can play, but now everything is standardized. So it's really good for player health and safety that you take away it's our star player, we need him back in. Sometimes it's not, the fans don't want that, but it's the best health of the player to follow these protocols that they have set. And so, there are national groups that come up with the recommendations and they adjust them appropriately as needed. And so it does actually help on the sideline that I don't have to make a judgment call, maybe not. Things are written out, and so it's much easier and safer for players.
And I really have to ask you this: being on the sidelines, covering games on Friday night, how much do you cringe seeing that as time goes faster, the equipment, the shoulder pads, the lack of knee pads gets smaller and smaller and smaller? I know that has to give you anxiety every time a helmet drops down to a bare knee. I mean, what goes through your mindset when you just see a helmet coming right there into somebody's bare knee?
Oh yeah, when you hear that loud crack of a tackle and all the crowd's cheering for it, that's always the one that kind of gets me. And kickoffs are what I hate. That's where most injuries actually are, and that's why they've moved kickback to 25, instead of 20, because most plays, everyone for the most part is starting next to each other, and then you go on a kickoff, everyone's running the opposite direction as fast as they can, and so you just have full speed into full speed, and that's where a lot of blindside hits, things like that always worries you. Beginning of the season, a lot of guys get cramps, so I'm not as excited. But when you see that guy just rolling, you can tell when someone is truly hurt on the field, when they're on the ground and not really moving. That definitely scares you. I've this last season reduced shoulder dislocations on the field, and that's kind of exciting and to pop that in and get the guy back in the field. But it's those injuries when you always worry about head and neck stuff is just scary.
And how hard is it to, I'll call them knuckleheads. How hard is it to teach these knuckleheads about hydration? You're talking about the cramping and, these kids think they're invincible. We were all there. We didn't think we could drink a cup of water and we felt like we were good. Just talk about that aspect of staying hydrated, especially with the turf fields and what you see early on in the season.
Definitely first several games. And once you start cramping, you're going to cramp the rest of the game. The coaches are always yelling, get some, pickle juice and stuff like that. But by the time you're cramped, it's too late. A lot of those electrolytes and stuff that you need, you got to have the day before, and you got to be hydrated the morning of the game. And it's not like you can just drink some water on the sideline and then all of a sudden your cramps are going to go away. So it's really prevention with cramps. So we try to get the players and the training staff for the schools talking about, the day before, and the morning of, really drinking a lot before the game starts really prevents a lot of that.
I know I had a question after we got done with Dr. Lee. I was talking about the wives' tales of the pickle juice beforehand and, playing softball. And I'd always just swore by it. You drink some pickle juice between games and you're fine. And he told me, he said, well, which answer do you want? Do you want to be right or wrong? So, he was trying to help me out, but in a sense, he was like, no, that's just a wives' tale. But I really want to switch to a positive side. We're starting to see a lot more of these helmet covers, these Guardian helmets. What do you think about those? And just the fact that they're trying to make some kind of headway on making this game a little bit safer out there for these kids.
Yeah, I think anything that prevents head injuries is a great idea. I can't remember which player it was, but the first NFL player that played it had some good quote about everyone thought the seatbelt was stupid until everyone started using it. I can't remember his exact quote on it, but when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, it's silly until it's not silly. And if it prevents head injuries, I mean, CTE, the traumatic brain injuries that these players are getting, it's a dangerous thing. And just getting hit in the head that many times, if it protects those players, I think it would be a great thing for the sport. Now, I think if you're reducing concussions, I think as a fan, you don't want your players getting injured. You want to have those star players all season. Why not wear that helmet? So I think it's a great idea to continuously explore and see are there things that can help and make the game better and safer.
And I think it speaks to the fact that everybody's preaching to the parents. They're starting to get away from football. You start this from an early age. You're giving those kids, those parents, that comfort of letting them know they're coming in, and you're not giving these kids the opportunity to play football, grow into football, and love it. And they're actually doing something to where it makes parents a little bit more, they feel better about having their kids join football.
Right. Oh, I've definitely had parents weary of their kids playing football because of injuries and things like that. And so, if we can prevent that philosophy and get parents engaged and stuff, I think it's great for the sport.
And we were talking about, you said they've made changes to kickoff, and we're even seeing onside kicks and the rule changes of that. I've always made it to where I think, the punt return to me is more of a dangerous kick than I wouldn't put it at one onside kick because that's just there's not enough. But I'm going off the reaction time, and you're not having two people at least being able to run. You're having one team run.
And one guy just standing there.
Yeah. So it's if they could make one rule change, it doesn't have to be with punt and return. If they could, you could have like your say so in one rule change when it comes to the safety of the game. What would you want to see differently done?
I do think I've never really thought about punt return. I always think about kickoff, but I do agree with you that there is a component of that but part of the counter to the punt return is that you get those turnovers, you get those fumbles as part of that. That's a big part of the game, where as opposed to kickoff, where you're not really getting as many turnovers on kickoff. I don't know how I feel about the rule of, I believe it's in the NFL now, where you have to say that you're going to do an onside kick first. Is that
that's horrible?
I don't know if I'm a big fan of that change. But I get the point of what they're trying to do. But part of an onside kick is the kind of sneakiness of it. But I guess a lot of times in the NFL you don't have that, like in college, high school, where people just randomly do it in the second quarter and catch someone sleeping.
I think they need to bring back the cowboy collar or something in the net area, like a NASCAR helmet, because you're talking about concussions, but your expertise, is there more of where does the line of concussion from the impact of being hit or actually your head hitting the ground? Is there a lot? Is it even, or is it where do you see more injuries come from?
A lot of them are your head hitting the ground, and you kind of get that where your head bounces. So sometimes it's getting tackled sideways and your head hits sideways and hits the ground and bounces up. Kind of interesting with concussions. A lot of times the injury from concussion happens from bouncing the other way. So your head hits the ground and your brain kind of flies that way. And then as you bounce the other way, your brain hits the other side as well too. So it's kind of interesting the way that it's bouncing and then bouncing the other way. It's tough with the net collars because if you're restricting motion too, you have a trade-off of not being able to see as well, not being able to move as well. And so I think there is a trade-off on that. I don't think a lot of these head injuries and concussions are from the head going backwards. A lot of it seems to be from the side. So I think that's where the net collar doesn't help as much for those. Yeah.
So what if you're teaching these kids, you're talking to parents or even, college age kids, what are some preventative little stretches? What are some preventative things these kids can go out there and practice, safe practice to really kind of not prevent, but limit the extent of these injuries?
Yeah, and definitely a proper tackling technique is a big one. That's why the spear tackling and all that, keeping your head up. And so a lot of those targeting things I think are really good to instill in younger kids, to just proper tackling. I hate the guys that try to hit the big hit and they don't wrap up and then they miss the tackle. It's like limiting that helps a lot. And then just overall, just kind of stretching beforehand, just kind of basic stuff that seems basic, but just stretching beforehand can really just go a long way, keeping your flexibility and your strength. If you're stiff and tight, you're more likely to injure something, pull something. So I think just your basic warm-up routine is a big thing to do. Staying hydrated, we kind of talked about that as well too. You start getting dehydrated, you're getting a little tired, you're not performing at the top rate. That's a lot of times where you get hurt, is at the end of the game when you're tired and you can't perform as well, and someone just kind of blows through you. So it's kind of just the basic thing.
Well, that brought up another point. You're talking about tackling. I totally forgot about when the hip tackle, where they jump on you from behind and kind of bring you down like a steer.
Yeah.
That really didn't last long. I think it was popular maybe 1 or 2 seasons where defenses were doing that, and they quickly, because the amount of injuries, from Pee Wee all the way up to NFL was just getting too much. And, we're looking at college, pro aside, we're looking at high school, middle school, Pee Wee. We're talking about not only injuries that can keep you up for a season, but as you're growing, it can really impact your adult life. So them making those changes to prevent those type of injuries, I know that's probably got to be a sight for sore eyes to see that they're, again, another measure where they're trying to make this game safer.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's kind of basic mechanics on everything. And, same with pitchers in baseball, of good throwing mechanics, things like that, prevents a lot of injuries. And it people don't like to harp on it, but just, again, doing the right thing every time will help prevent injuries to yourself or other people too. So a lot of what we do is to prevent injuries to others. which is, again, good tackling mechanics, good throwing mechanics, however, whatever you're going to look at, is good to instill in the young players so that they don't have bad habits you have to break once you get into college or pros, whatever level it might be.
And we'll wrap things up with, I don't know where your allegiance lies. We didn't talk about your fandom, who you're a fan of, but state your claim on your team. And if it's the Razorbacks, what do you think? And looking forward into this season.
Yeah, I've traveled all over, so I've got a bunch of claims. So I'm a Baylor guy, so I went there for undergrad, but I've got degrees from Texas and OU, and then University of New Mexico, so I'm all over. But
what makes it easy on you?
No, I'm super excited about the Hogs this year. I was able to go to the Duke basketball game last year and lost my voice. Clinic was definitely rough the next day, but that game was so much fun going to that. So I'll have to say I'm definitely a T-shirt Razorback fan since I moved here.
There you go.
I'll throw another shout out. I've got my I'm the team doc. I don't know if you can see on my shirt the UAFS University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. I'm their team physician here too. They don't have football, but I cover all their other sports. But I think it's going to be a close game. I think, going 10 touchdowns on 10 possessions last week. Mm-hmm. That's tough to do no matter who you're playing. So I'm excited for what Petrino is bringing, and I think the offense is going to be there. We'll just kind of see what defense can do. It's tough. It's tough to win Stillwater, man. Those end zones are right there, and it's a loud environment. So I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to come down to who gets the ball last. So well, I'll give the homer pick to the Hogs, but I think it's going to be close.
And it doesn't help with the paddles and banging the paddles and stuff. And I'm sure Big 12 country, you got to witness a lot of that. But I believe we had the other doctor from UFAS on, and I told him when I was around, it was West Ark. So, this was back in the JUCO days. My last year was their last year of being a JUCO, and they were actually moving up. So a lot of great games. I went to a school in Oklahoma called Connor State. So, I mean, that was one of our rivals. So very familiar. I'm right down the road in Ozark. So, UFAS is one of those programs, volleyball, baseball, basketball. They're really, at one time, they had one of the best women's basketball programs and volleyball programs in the nation. So it's really good to see those towns, those smaller schools, and their programs in building, and then having the U.S. Marshals, the Fort Smith Marshals play at Crowder Field. So I'm sure that was a lot of fun to see. And on your level of college, what are you seeing, in your day to day? Like you're talking about being the team doctor now. It's volleyball season. What do you look for? What kind of stuff are you see these kids come out of high school where they were the star, or they really didn't want to disclose stuff to keep that scholarship. I mean, how hard is that to really look forward to and then judge if this is kind of a pre-existing injury or something you could have kind of let us know about?
Yeah, and it's tough on there, and definitely the higher level when you start looking at D1 and some of those others, they really look at your medical history and things like that beforehand. I remember in training, one of the physicians I was learning under was the team physician for the Rockets, and halfway through clinic just stopped. And the GM and all these other folks from the Rockets showed up, and they went to a back room and started looking at MRIs of a player before they considered trading for him. So at that level, it's insane what they go through before they even do a trade. Now, when you start getting in the D2 and some of the other levels, they definitely ask. It's not as big of a thing, but I get asked to look over. I've been asked to look over op reports from outside physicians and things like that. Usually, though, by the time I see them, they're already on the team, so it's not something that they're asking me whether to offer that person or not. They're just trying to take care of these players the best that they can, once they're at the university. So I'm not doing any transfer portal or anything like that. I'm just taking care of it. Yeah, exactly. Wish I could have my own NIL deal. I'm just taking care of the players the best I can. I do have a really close relationship with the head athletic trainer. His name Brian does a great job, and so we it's really the go-between is between myself and the trainer, and less so the coaches. And that way the athletes get cared for the best care, and whatever they need gets taken care of. And then he relays that information to the coaches.
Well, Dr. Tobey, it's been a pleasure having you on. Again, I've said this from the start. I really like this partnership we have with Baptist Health, coming on and bringing on different providers, different health issues, different things that, giving education to those that some who might not know to look for it on a sports podcast, but
Right.
partnership's been great. And again, really appreciate you coming on with us.
Definitely really appreciate it. Go Hogs.
Yes, sir. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Hog Talk podcast. Again, catch Hog HQ on Sundays. And of course, always Hog Talk podcast next week. We'll catch you on the other side.